Hello and welcome into the Lone Star Varsity Preview Show, presented by University Medical Center and powered by AJ Media. I'm Mike Graham.
And I'm Bryan Navarette, and we're with the Lone Star Varsity High School sports staff.
Well, Bryan, it's already week 3, and a couple of teams are getting very close to district play. This is the final week you can say that all teams in our area are still in non-district play, and a really interesting game because of that coming up. We'll just hop right into it. It's Friendship at Lubbock Cooper.
This game has really turned into a big rivalry over the years. I've heard people call it a fresh rivalry, and I believe that. And it's been a good couple game last couple years. I'm looking forward to another good one. I finally get to get out to this one personally.
Yeah, they're very similar schools. I mean, just academically and athletically. But maybe they're not so similar anymore with Jay Northcutt coming in and taking over Friendship's offense. They're going to look a little different this year. Might present Lubbock Cooper a couple of challenges, although they're reeling from 2 losses last week, 55-48 loss to El Paso El Dorado at home.
Yeah, Coach Catwinkle and the Pirates are definitely going to see something different from Friendship this week with their spread-like offense. They were really productive last week. They just couldn't get it there at the end. They were competitive all the way through, and that was one of the positives that Coach Northcutt was taking away from that loss was that Friendship just didn't give up. They were in it to the end. It's just some difficulties in tackling on the defensive end. Friendship has some big playability, but I really think the Cooper's defense is going to be able to combat that.
Yeah, now Cooper is also reeling from a loss, game they largely controlled. Ended up losing 22-17, but you've seen the Cooper defense and you were impressed by it. So like we were talking on the podcast from yesterday, if you haven't seen that, go to LoneStarVarsity.com and check it out. Good for a short drive around Lubbock. But just like we were talking there, this game really looks like it's coming down to Friendship's explosive offense to Cooper's hard-nosed brand of defense.
Yes, and I think that is going to be the big battle right there between those two. Friendship, like I was mentioning, big playability. They had a 96-yard touchdown pass from Austin Phillips to, I believe it was Nick McCauley. And Nick McCauley was actually a great athlete that kind of rose to the occasion on last Friday. He chased down I would say, a receiver. I think it was a receiver that was returning the ball for him. But he chased him down from their 4-yard line all the way to their 1-yard line and stripped it, and it rolled out of bounds, and it caused a touchback. It was crazy, but him not giving up on that play, I think, just really shows how Friendship's got big playability around them. But Cooper's defense, hard-nosed. I saw them week 1. They were impressive in taking away the run, and then when they forced Amarillo into throwing the ball, defensive backs came up big. What can we say? Jake Kirkpatrick's a really good athlete.
Really, that's what I was thinking about. That man, this is a big game for Jake Kirkpatrick going up against an offense where all 4 receivers are options, and they have a running back that can run the ball up the middle too. And for him as a safety, I guess this year, what is it about his game that makes him special, and how much of a factor will he be against such a pass-heavy team, or will they limit him, by running him off with a lesser important receiver?
I think his conditioning and just his abilities at his position, he's bought in at being a defensive back. It's hard to find some kids that are just wanting to play defensive back. Usually you want to be on the offensive side. But I think he's really bought into his position, and he does really well there. He's going to have some opportunities to get some interceptions, I think, if he's able to kind of deliver on his end. Austin Phillips, he was really good in that game, but they were airing it out. They were going for the deep ball. So if you're doing a matchup between Jake Kirkpatrick and a deep ball, that's going to become very difficult, I think, for Friendship.
Now we got to talk worst case scenario for Friendship, because they are 0-2, and a loss to Cooper would have them finishing non-district 0-3, heading into a tough District 2 6A.
Yes.
How important is it for Friendship not to lose this game? And if they do, what are some of the things they can do to right the ship before district play begins?
I think the importance of this game is huge for Friendship because obviously you want to make the playoffs, and this is a district where it's going to become very difficult to make the playoffs, and I think if you can't get a win before district, you come in with a little bit of a down mentality. I think it's all just about the mental aspect of this whole thing. Friendship, I would say, needs the win, but at the same time, I could see them kind of falling into form there in district play too. But then again, we have some pretty big contenders coming into this district that surprised us as well.
Yeah, Permian looked very, very good when they came in scrimmage. Cooper struggled with them a little bit in their option game. Odessa High
Odessa
and
High.
we'll get into them a little bit. And there are a couple of other teams that are starting for their first win that we'll get into. But the next game is the first game of the Week 3 slate. It's Dumas at Lubbock High. It's 7 p.m. kickoff Thursday evening.
With Lubbock High, I mean, they got that first win. Obviously, they took a loss last week, but I still feel like this team has a lot of energy and momentum going for them. 1-1's not necessarily where you want to be, but I think that first game really set them in the right direction because they did have some productivity last week.
No doubt, no doubt. Really, I got to visit these guys earlier today. If you're watching live, it's Wednesday, and they were pretty upbeat. You know, a couple of turnovers early in the game against Andrews buried them. It was their worst case fear that Lubbock High just wants to outlast people this year and rely on their conditioning. They know that in some regards they don't have the athletes that other schools do, but if they can wear you down, at some point they get on a level playing field, and if they've kept it close, you know, there are opportunities for them to win games, which is exactly what they did against Seminole. Looking to do that against Dumas, and Dumas looked very, very good in Week 1, and this is one of the favorites to win the District 3 5A. That's the adjacent district to the 5A that most of the Lubbock schools play in, including Lubbock High, so it could even be a playoff preview match. But Dumas gets a 42-7 win against Perryton in Week 1, then travels down to Lowry last Thursday to face Estacado. Kind of a surprise, 48-17 loss for Dumas against Estacado, and you were at that game. What did you see from the Demons, and what surprised you about Estacado, who was coming in after a loss?
Nothing really, I think I may have mentioned this in the podcast, but nothing really surprised me about Estacado. It was a team that I was expecting to see in Week 1. They were able to throw the ball down the field, run it between two different backs, and they were really good defensively. From Dumas, I think where they struggled is where they had to play into Estacado's game. Some mixed matches there in the corner. They have tall receivers. Dumas does not have the height to combat that. Some very athletic plays from Estacado, which we knew they had the athleticism coming in. Dumas, I think that game would have been a lot closer if their offense could have got going, but that Estacado defense really shut them down.
Really did.
I think for Lubbock High coming into this one, you just have to be prepared for Dumas. You got to be able to do what Estacado did to them, which is, you know, create some mixed matches and really jump on them early and force them into doing things that they don't want to do.
And frankly, I think Lubbock High is going to need some big plays, which they might be able to get with the running back, Isaiah Johnson. Yeah,
Isaiah Johnson, what can we say about him? Week 1, he did a phenomenal job. He got him that win in overtime. I think he's a player to watch coming into this one. I think Lubbock High has a lot of positive things going for him, and he's very much one of them. Also with their quarterback, Kwame Wilborn.
Yeah. Now, interesting thing, and I don't know how Dumas managed to swing this, but they've had 6 days of rest. You know, they went from a Thursday game to a Thursday game. Lubbock High is coming in from a Friday game to a Thursday game, and then next week we'll have to bounce back to a Friday game to face Estacado. But what are some of the advantages you think that you get when you have an extra day of preparation, and what are some of the disadvantages when a day is taken away from you?
I think you hit it on the head in preparation. I mean, you just have another day of preparation, another day in the film room to see your opponent. I think one of the negatives is just sitting out for a while. You know, you hear about players cooling down at halftime. You go in, you cool down. Maybe you're not as intense coming out in the third quarter. Maybe that's kind of what that longer week gives you. Maybe a bit of more of a cool down.
And that's what Lubbock High will get next week when they face Estacado. Another interesting thing about this game is the fact that Lubbock High is basically looking at the same tape 2 weeks in a row. This week they're looking and game planning against Dumas. They're going to turn around next week and use the same exact tapes to game plan for Estacado. It's as simple as switching the tapes between the offensive and defensive rooms.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that game as well to see how they both kind of respond.
Now, these are 2 teams that it's starting to get into desperation mode, although their records might not be everything, just considering the caliber of competition they played. But it's Idalou at Littlefield. And these teams are 0-2, and both these teams went at least to the area round in their respective classification divisional playoff circuits.
Yeah, Littlefield did a phenomenal job last year in district, going undefeated to win that district, which is a tough district in general. And Idalou has always been impressive to me. They do a good job at the coaching level to get everybody ready. I think Idalou just hasn't fallen into form yet. I expect more out of them moving forward. This might be the one where I think this game is going to be very telling for both because obviously you want to get a win. 0-2 is a bad taste to kind of wash out of your mouth. So I think coming into this one, they both have their strengths. But, yeah, I guess whoever gets this one, it's going to kind of turn around the season for them.
You know, it's always interesting. You get to the state championship weekend, and they flash the records of some of the teams. And
Yeah.
you know, I remember Yoakum last year from 3A Division 3A Division 1, which is the one that Littlefield's in. I mean, they had 4 regular season losses to the end of the game, 11-4. So it's not the end of the world if your non-district record doesn't look good. But at the same time, there aren't many teams like that that are 11-4 going to state championship weekend. And these two teams, I don't know if they have state championship expectations this year, but they have lofty regional expectations, and they've played like it, and they've scheduled like it. Idalou, this is going to be their second matchup against a 3A Division 1 team. They're not going to play a 3A Division 2 team through their non-district. Of course, they get to drop down and play post next week from the 2A rankings, but they have not played anyone their size or smaller just yet. So maybe that 0-2 isn't as bad as it looks, and the same could be said for Littlefield, which has played Pampa and Denver City in back-to-back weeks 4A programs. So, but one of the things that alarms me about Idalou is just their offensive totals. They're at 296 total yards through 2 games, and not getting a lot of production except for the running back Mark Caballero, who has more than half their yards in one of their 2 touchdowns. Idalou is a team that hasn't scored more than 10 points in either 2 of its games.
I think that's going to be a big turnaround when we're looking at the end of district. I think their offensive stats I think they're going to kind of find themselves offensively moving forward. They have a really good running back and fullback contrast. I think it just hasn't shown yet. I think at any game that you're going to see these numbers spike for Idalou. Littlefield, we'll see how they kind of play. I haven't had a chance to check in on Littlefield. Hopefully I do in the future. But, yeah, I think we'll see a spike in Idalou's offense. But I think this is going to be a really good game for both teams.
I think so, too. I think it's the fairest fight that both these two teams have faced, and fortunately it comes against each other. Should be a really good football game. And then finally, before we pick these games, just a little bit on Greenwood and Shallowater, 2 unbeaten teams. And Shallowater, starting with their 35-7 win against Idalou on Fox Sports Southwest, well, they looked the part of a 3A Division 1 contender by jumping up to the 4A ranks to play Levelland last week, beat those guys 35-20. So where are we on the hype mobile with Shallowater?
I'm there. I'm all in on Shallowater. They've impressed me. I think going up against Levelland was really telling for them, because Levelland, I got to see them in practice, and last year this was a very offensive team, and I was impressed by their defense. And Shallowater was able to come out and just do a lot of good things. Cutter Sparks, man, he's just really rising to the occasion under the center. No
doubt. And then Greenwood wins 14-7 against Snyder. Snyder looks like it's a scrappy team because it goes the next week and wins by a field goal in its next game, and then beat Brownfield, which has had some issues, 49-14. So this is going to be more so for Greenwood. I think this is going to be a telling game for Greenwood and who they are.
Yeah, and I think a big part of who they are right now is their quarterback, Jake Sommers. He had 326 total yards against Brownfield, so he might be the player to watch. This might be a quarterback duel.
Quarterback duel, which would be the second in a row for Shallowater's Cutter Sparks after going up against Chris Gerber last week from Levelland.
Yeah, and he responded well. I mean, Chris Gerber is a very good athlete, and I thought Levelland had a really good defense. But coming into this one, I think he's a player to watch, Sommers, and I think for Shallowater it's going to be Cutter Sparks.
All right, let's nail ourselves down with some predictions. You ready to go?
I'm ready.
Okay, first up, and we'll just circle back with the games we've gone through.
Let's go Friendship Cooper last.
You want to go Friendship Cooper last?
Yeah, let's go Friendship Cooper last.
Okay. Then we'll move right on to our opening game of Week 3, the Thursday game. Dumas at Lubbock.
I'm going to take Lubbock. I think Dumas is going to have a hard time kind of responding from the loss against Estacado, and I think Lubbock High is in a different place than they were last year at this time of the season. So I'm taking Lubbock High.
I'm also going to take Lubbock High, but this one is the one that I'm most unsure about, I think, because Estacado had athletes that were bigger than Dumas's, and it looks like Lubbock High is about the same. But with Isaiah Johnson at running back, I think that's a matchup win. Kwame Wilborn at quarterback is obviously a nice piece, and they're going up against similarly sized guys on the perimeter. And then their defense is probably the absolute strength of the Lubbock High team. So they're in good positions to win this game. But I think it's going to be very, very close. I think it's going to be fun. And I think that if you don't have anything going on Thursday, you should check out that game. Up next, Idalou and Littlefield.
I'm taking Idalou. Like I said, I see their offensive stats spiking at some point in the season, and this might be the game. I'm taking Idalou on this one.
Yeah, I might take Idalou too. Same reasons.
Okay. I guess we'll move on to Coronado-Odessa.
Coronado-Odessa.
Coronado-Odessa is an exciting one because of what Odessa High has accomplished so far in this season. But Coronado is just huge offensively, and their defense has come up really good for them. I think I'm taking the Mustang. Oh, no, I'm taking Coronado, rather.
Coronado, I mean, Odessa's on a 2-0 run after an 0-15 losing streak dating back to the middle of the 2015 season. Coronado, probably not the best performance, not the performance they wanted against Wichita Falls Rider last week, 42-28. Scored 28 points in the fourth quarter, so we know that they can rise to the occasion late now. I'm expecting Odessa to play ball control. I'm expecting them to limit the Coronado
I like where you're going with this.
Yeah, but okay. I think that Coronado's too explosive. I'm gonna take Coronado, and I don't think it's gonna be that close.
Oh man, I thought you were gonna go Odessa.
No, yeah. No, just the athletes. I mean, on the perimeter, I think this is a team that really can get them, because Monterey kind of exposed them at times in the opening game. Monterey kind of is like Coronado offense junior right now. Haven't found all the pieces they need to be successful, but they've got the prime pieces in place, and Odessa had enough problems with that. So with a well-rounded offense like Coronado, I'm going to take them. Okay, Greenwood at Shallow Water.
I'm all in on Shallow Water. I think Shallow Water comes away with a win on this one. I think, I'm going to take Shallow Water in this one. Yeah,
Shallow Water really, seems to have the mojo going right now. Mm-hmm. I think they have a better strength of schedule, and I think they're going to keep going. I think that they win this game by 2 possessions.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening.
Okay, now the main one, Friendship at Cooper.
Okay, so before we get into this one, I just want to kind of revisit, the positives on both ends. You got Friendship's offense, which is at times looked very explosive last week against El Dorado. And you got Cooper's defense, who looked really good in week 1 whenever I got to visit them. Okay, so it comes down to it. I think it's going to be hard for Friendship to kind of get the ball going on them just because of the defensive backs that they do have and the fact that they had to rely on the pass game a lot. So I'm going to go Cooper.
Well, I think we're the same on all these, because I'm also going to go Cooper on this game. The old phrase, defense wins championships.
I don't think it's not feasible that Friendship can win this game.
No doubt.
I think they have a really good chance at being competitive in this game, but if you have to choose, like you said, defense wins championships.
I think so. I think that Cooper, no matter what happens in this game, I think that Cooper's going to hold Friendship below 48 points. But I think that's going to be a fun game. I think you've got the best game of the Friday slate.
It's been 4 years coming, so I'm glad to be there.
Well, we're looking forward to learning all about these results. We'll be back Friday evening, probably 11:30, midnight-ish for the Lone Star Varsity postgame show. And then after that on Saturday, we'll get some sleep. We'll add some more thoughts and put together a postgame podcast for you. We really appreciate y'all watching tonight.
And we appreciate our sponsors, University Medical Center.
Yeah. Thank you to UMC. Thank you to AJ Media, Brad Tollefson over there producing. We really appreciate y'all coming by, and we hope to see you again Friday night.